returning to this beautiful book, Opening the Hand of Thought, I was really struck by what Uchiyama Roshi had to say about the approach to the spiritual path, which can sometimes be stuck in ancient stories. So he speaks of one time he was walking, he was out on a big walk or something, and he spotted in the hills a ruin of a temple, and he said, "Well, what's that?" They said, "Oh, that was our temple, Sensei. That was the village temple. It was recently it was destroyed. It was destroyed, and it had to be rebuilt. But it was rebuilt with less than its original splendor." And the guy that was telling him this, his guide, was so morose about it that the Roshi immediately felt, "Oh, this must be something that's happened recently." He said, "Come on, we'll go and have a look." And so they walked up this big hill, and then there was stone steps going all the way up the hill. A long walk, and finally got to this temple. And it didn't look like it had been recently repaired. It was, it looked ancient. And so that, Kosho Uchiyama's asking his guide, "When did you say this happened?" He said, "Oh, 700 years ago." And the Zen teacher, he burst out laughing. Zen abbot, he burst out laughing. He's like, "What? But you're like acting all serious about it all morning." He said, "Oh, yes, this is terrible for us, our village." And he goes on to say that this is often what happens in the world of religion. We cling to ancient stories, the birth of the Buddha 2,500 years ago, uh, certain texts that repute its miraculous nature. So he talks about how it's often considered a virtue in religions to live in the past as if it was the present, so really relive the Passover as if it's happening to you today, or the Nativity, the same as Christ was born 2,000 years ago, he must be born in you today, says St. Ambrose, referring to the liturgy of Nativity. This is all well and good. And, I think we do need our 2 feet in deep tradition. But the problem is, it's very, very difficult to sincerely access, if we're really sincere, what actually occurred at the time of Moses and what really occurred and what didn't occur at the time of King David or at the time of the prophets. It is incredibly difficult to really know for certain the life of Jesus. And I like what this Buddhist abbot that I spoke to recently said. He said it wouldn't bother me one iota if it turned out that Siddhartha Gautama never lived. Even, you know, what's important to me is the Dharma, is the teachings, not that there's a historical chap called Siddhartha who lived in a palace one time and his father tried to hoodwink him about suffering, which incidentally then the Orthodox got a hold of and made this man and automatically assumed, oh, this guy must have been a Christian that renounced passions and pleasures and went off truth seeking and discovered a way out of the passions in the desert, as it were. It sounds Orthodox. He's an Orthodox saint. And did it become Saint Joachim, or I can't remember the name of the guy now. It begins with a J. Saint Josephat, I'm pretty sure. But this is it. Stories are malleable. A third of the Jesus's teachings are parables. A third of his sayings, of the words of Jesus, the red letters in the Bible, are parables, word pictures. One might even stretch that to say koans. Koans. This is a good book for that. Padre Kadowaki, a Jesuit priest and Japanese Jesuit priest and practitioner of Zen and the Bible. You can pick it up in English. I just got it cheap in French, so I thought, why not? Which I kind of regret. Easier to read in English. Uchiyama points out that, if you've got somebody who's mentally unwell and they're like locked in, reliving the past like it's the present, and they're not living in the present moment, they're not able to respond to the present moment and its challenges because they're busy in the traumatic past or their deep past. We call them insane, but when you've got swathes of people doing it, we call it somehow a virtue. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that the vast majority of mystics of all the Abrahamic faiths talk of a deep encounter with the God in the present moment. Give us this day our daily bread. And that the deep promises of God, the deep story of the Bible, should lead us into an encounter with the God of today, so that we're not living in the past. It's very, very difficult to access what really occurred in the deep past, and I think we'll squabble about that till the cows come home, till the very day, till Judgment Day, if you like. And yet, what's really important is the way of Jesus, the way of the Buddha, and the way of our own, of understanding ourselves in the present moment. And incidentally, just to finish this on a biographical note, today my wife and I went to a Roman Catholic monastery nearby, Mount St. Bernard, and we just sat there. Must have been no more than 3/4 of an hour. I was a quarter of an hour in the bookshop, and then went through to the to the main church. And as we expected, it was going to be freezing cold in there. A couple of rads on, clung to that. Vespers was on, and we came out just in a different place, beatified, as it were, made beautiful. I could see the expression on my wife's face changed. It was a joy which followed us all the way home. And it didn't matter what your particular theology was. A deep encounter with silence. And I said to my wife, I said, look, in the context of a monastery, prayer really makes sense. In a context of a monastery, in that silence, in that special ambience of people giving their lives to this, it makes sense. Prayer becomes real, tangible, serious, inspiring. Whereas unfortunately, at the level of the parish, it often just seems banal, somewhat childish, lukewarm, watery, unenticing, unconvincing, frustrating. Well, forgive me. I mean, obviously, that's probably something I should do something about rather than sitting moaning on YouTube. But just some thoughts to offer. Some great books.